Okay, Assalamu alaikum. Uh, Today we see some problems on composition and then inheritance, two core concepts of any Java programming course. We start with composition. Composition is something like you put classes inside other classes. So maybe you did write so many classes, but so far you have only attributes like primitive data types or strings, maybe arrays, but all are of either strings or primitive data types. Nesting classes or composition, the purpose is to group classes together. Those classes usually belong to each other. Sometimes you want an attribute of one class to be an object. Embedding one class inside another is called composition. So embedding one class inside another is called composition. We usually also call it has a relationship. Example, the car has an engine. So if car is a class and engine is a class, engine class is an attribute of the car class. Account has an owner. Same thing. Owner is a class, which is an attribute of another class, account. Same thing, bookstore has a book, or usually array list of books or many books. Course has an instructor and usually many students. So in our first example, we will do like team. A team class or a team, any team, has objects and has attributes like name, city, year established, president, and manager. The team also has a list of players. The team also has a list of players. So in this example, we have a player class to represent data about each player in the team. But a team naturally has a list of players, not only one. A team also has a president and manager, and in the first example, we will just use their names, not separate classes. So let's go to the code and see what we can do. Here is our player class. It's a straightforward class. Player has a name and score and ID. I created two constructors, one that takes only ID and name, and the other takes all the attributes. The second constructor calls the first constructor. So here also we have a simple toString for the player object. So player is very simple here. Three attributes, ID, name, and score, and setter and getter, and one toString. Now if you want to create a team, and a team, we need to think like a team has a name, it has a city, it has also year established, president, and manager. Type. If the team has many players, then the players will be like in an array or array list. To get more flexibility, we believe creating array list is easier since we can add and remove players to the team quickly. And we don't have to stick to one size like the case with arrays. So here is our team class. And next we will create our player class, this one. I will create a class called, our team. And this team class has, if we want, here we can say, private string team name and private integer year established, and maybe we can say also private string city and many other things. But a very important thing now for the team, a very important thing is to set the players, which is a list of players. In this case, you can make array list of player, and you can call it players or team players. Here is our players. So we have our array list of players. I can just import the array list here. In our constructor, I need to make it simple here. In our constructor, I will just use the first 3 attributes. You can use all the attributes if you want. So I will just remove the players from it and make our first constructor. So we have team name, year established, and city. Next, in the constructor, we are not doing anything to the players. However, if your initialization is like this, you cannot later in the code add players to your array list of player. Because array list, before it can be used, it must be initialized. A good idea here to do players, let me just change here, players equals a new array list of player. Now later in your code, you can add and remove. The playlist is ready. If you do not provide or initialize the array list, you cannot use it later. So here we initialize our array list to be empty in the constructor. So now whenever you create a team, you will call this constructor. If you call the constructor, then you set all the attributes and you initialize the players. It will be an empty list, but it will be ready to be used. Always you need to use new array list and the parentheses. Otherwise, if you try to add or remove, you will get null pointer exception. Some people would do this here, for example. Some people would do it here, here like this, which is fine. It's already initialized now, here. Or you can initialize it in the constructor. Whether you do it here or there, make sure you initialize it. Now let's do set and get. Let's do set and get for all our. I will select all. I forgot one important thing here, which is good. I have maximum number of players. Integer, private, integer, max players. And I will just do this here in the constructor, integer max players. يعني the team can only take a maximum number of players, and I would say this dot max players is equal to max players. I'm not doing any validation now since the topic is something else. Let me make just setter and getter for max player also. So source generate setter and getter for max player generate. Next, so here is our team. When you create a team object, you can assign the name, the year established, the city, maximum players, and your array list of players is initialized. Is it a good idea to provide a method to the user of this team to add a player, one player at a time? You don't have to add all of them. Here we're going to add one player at a time. يعني I'll make a simple here, public void add player. So naturally, what parameter this function takes? It takes what? A player object. So add a player to the team in Java means what? add a player object to what? To the array list players. Does that make sense? Add a player to the team in Java here, add an array list or add an object to the array list. However, you can do a good check. You can check the size of the players or to know how many players in the team simply because you have a maximum number. If you have already the maximum number, you cannot add it, right? You can say if you need to know the number of players. You can say this if, for example, if this dot get get number of players, get players, all the players. Here, get players will return an array list. Size is greater than or less than max player. This dot get max players. But I recommend to provide a simple method. A private can be a private method. For example, a private integer get a current, current or get player count. Player count, is the number of players currently on the team. The name of the method here is very good, which is gonna return what? Return this dot get players, which is an array list dot size. So the name is very useful here, and it's a private method. You can call it anytime from this class. So now, if you want to know how many players currently in the team, you can call this utility method get player count. So instead of just calling the array size. So this dot get player count here, if it's less than maximum players, then you can add what? You can add the player to the team. What's the array list name? The array list name is players. How to add a new player to it? Just add. What to add? Player. So you only add a player if the current size of the array list is less than the maximum players. Otherwise, you could what? Otherwise, you could say team is full, for example. Otherwise, sys out team is full. I cannot add any new player. Tamam. So now we have a method called add player. Later we will add a new thing like remove player, and we will see. So now we have a class called team, our team, with these attributes. I can only add players to it. Of course, you can provide toString here, for example, public toString, and return a decent output. I'll just now return quick things here, return our team, just quick thing, and then I will modify it later, plus this dot get team name. So this is the output of our team. If I want to use it here, I will create a tester. I will create a class. I'll call it our team tester. Our team tester. And I can make it, I need to make void main. And I will copy some code I prepared before. I have some code that I use in our method here, our team tester. This method I will use to fill the team with some player. Right. And here I will say the class name is our team. Right. This is a method. Why I need this method? Just to create a team. First, I need to create a player, some players. Okay. However, here I need to show you how to input the players and add them to the team. Look at this method. In this, I can create players and add them to the team. For example, here, this method will check how many maximum players. Look at this. Our team, team is equal to new our team. Let us see what we need for our team. So our team class here, the constructor takes team name, year established, city, and maximum players. So let us make a tester. Team name is QU, for example, basketball. Okay. Second, year established 1999. Then the third one is, just forgot what's the third one, city and maximum player. So city is Doha and maximum players in basketball is 5. So this is a new team. Now, this team, when we call the constructor here, it does not have any player. The players list is empty. So I'll go to the tester. I created this method. I will use a scanner to fill all the players of the team. For example, here it will ask the user to input number of players. This number is what? It depends on, okay, from the team. Get what? Get maximum players. So this loop will go 5 times now. You decide okay, if you create another team with 7 players, okay, this one will go for what? 7 times. Tamam. Okay, here, for example, 7 players. So you decide this one. Now I'll just call this method. Add team players, okay, and I will send team. So when I call this method, the team will be filled with players. Let me just print here. Sorry. Let me just output the team. Since our output is not that good, okay, I will copy some code from another class to just try to provide a good output for the string method. I will copy paste this and let's look at it. So report, string format, and this get team name. So our team name will be printed. Then I have this dot string format. This team has this dot get player count, and we need to show the players one by one. So I can say for player this get players. So this is an array list of players. I will just output the player name. So here is our team player. If we look at the player here, we have ID, name, and score. How many points he scored. So there will be some players in your team. So now this is our team class. Now I can go to the tester and try to output it here. As you see here, this is our team tester. I will try to output it. I will run this with only 3 players. Okay, just to save few minutes. Okay, our player ID here, it's asking me enter player ID. I will enter, for example, 11, Ali Hassan, and points scored 7. Our second player, 22, and his name is Majid Muhammad, and he entered 3 points. Last player is Ahmed Ali. I entered something wrong, right? Instead of entering integer, I entered what? I entered something wrong. Let me just run this again. Okay. I need to stop this maybe here. There was something wrong here. I can, okay, run again. Here is our ID. 1, Ali, 2 points. 2, Hassan, 3 points. 3, Kamal, 5 points. So now the output, this output comes from our class, ya banat, right? Team name, QU basketball. This team has 3 players. Player ID 1, 2, 3. If you are wondering where we got this from, in our team class, the toString will go in a for loop and print each player as you see here. It will print the player indented to the right. How many players there? I still maybe need to print other things like city, okay, team name. Okay, here I can say, before a new line, here I can say city, okay, and person S, and plus, for example, here, year established is integer, so I will do %D. Okay, so now in our output for the first line, I need to call this dot get city, which is okay, fine, and this dot get year established, which is an integer. I will save everything and try our team tester again. Run it with 3 players. Player 1, Hamad Ali, he scored 7 points. Player 2 is Nasser Abdullah, and he scored 7 points. And player 4 is Hamad Ali, and he scores 5 points. If you look at the output now, we get the output of our team player, the team. Maybe we need a new line after the year established. So I'll go back to our team class here. I'll just make a simple modification to the output of our toString. We are using the player. Here. I just add a new line. We are using the player inside this. Since we add a player, ya banat, can we remove a player? Remove a player from the list. Usually we add an object, but when we remove by ID. Usually we add by object, but when we remove by ID. Let us go to add player and see where we put it. Here is our add player. Now what I'm going to do is public void. Usually this method is not void. Usually they return a boolean. If they remove the player successfully, they return true. If it's not found, they return false. Okay, so I will say remove player. So here our team, I just need to provide the player what? The player ID. The code is very simple. It can be for player P in this dot get players. This is our list. Now it's a simple if statement. If what? If P dot get ID is equal to what? ID, then I need to remove this player, right? So what should I do now? What should I see? This dot what? Get players. This is our list. Dot remove. Remove what? Remove P. So the player will be removed from the list. Does that make sense now? Good. So this way, if it's available, of course, we can go and elaborate on the code and see if it's not available, give an error message or something similar. But now I have an array list of players inside a team class. It can shrink and grow. Let us see now one more time to test our team here. I will call, after I add the 3 players, I will say team dot remove player. I will make a player number 11 and then print it again. So I'll add 1 player number 11 and then remove it. So let us go and run this now. I am entering now 11. His name is Ali. He scored 44. Second one is 33. His name is Ahmed, and he has only 2 scores. Third player, his name is Jassim, and he scored only 1 point. So now here we get some problem with this code, which is Arrayless Check for modification, array list, our team 61. So where is the error now? Clearly the error is here, somewhere here. Just to be a quick here. Here we have our remove player. Okay. So this dot get player. Oh, I need to return maybe. I need to return here. I only see the same code. Do you see other code? Yeah, Banat, here. What's only new here? Integer player ID. This is the same code I have done before the demo. remove player in our team. Okay, here is our, I only added maybe, okay, remove. So let me just see this code. Okay, and here, get. Some method names are different between the code I did before. Get players, the method name here, get players, and again, okay, here we will do get players. So this is our players list, and here what this dot get players. So I will once again run the same code, okay, which is our team tester here, and I will quickly add someone with the ID 11. His name is A. He scored 22. His name is B. He scored 1. 55. His name is G, and he scored 1. You see, Abanat, here, there was what? 3 players in the team, and now we have how many? 2 players. Which method I called from the tester? I called the method called RemovePlayer. So the RemovePlayer here in our team, it just compares the ID and removes the player from the list. So in many cases, when you have an array list of things, if I have a course and I have a student in that course, I need to add student or what? Remove student. Usually when you add by object name. If you remove usually by ID. Tamam. Does that make sense? طيب. If I want to know the total score of all the team members, what do you think I need to do? Public integer. Get total score of all members. This is very simple, by the way. You can say integer total score is equal to 0. Each player has a score. If I want to know the team score now, so I need to calculate to sum the score of each and every player, right? Does that make sense? Okay. Tamam. So this is total score, and again the same for loop here. I go with this for loop. Okay, I need to go with this for loop. Now, what should I say now? Total score plus equal what? P dot get score. Is this a way to calculate all the team scores? Right. And finally, return what? Return what? Return total score, right? If you want the average, ya Banat, you know how to get the average. Get the total divided by the count. The number of players in the team. Tamam. Okay. So now I can here go somewhere in our team, and maybe I can say here team name. Before I create a new line, I can say here what? Space total score. So total score is going to be for what? For example, is it integer, ya Banat? %D. So here I just, since I added this, I can say this get what? Total score. Let us run this one final time maybe. Our tester here, we are adding players, removing players. We are doing some calculations here. Okay, Jasim, 5, number 24, Hassan, he scored 19, number 66, Hisham, he scored like 12 points. Look at this. Total score here, you know where we got it from, right, ya Banat? And now here we have 3 players, صح? We removed who from the list? We removed number 11, Jasim, right? So now the total score is what? So this is dynamic. The list of students or players can shrink and grow. Does that make sense, ya Banat? Can you now say, I can replace a player? You know, when you play, you don't play basketball, صح? When you play any sports, usually, sometimes you replace a player. By the way, I'm not going to write any new code to replace a player. Tell me how to replace a player. Yalla. So here, I will go to this one, to the code. I need to replace a player. So, okay. Here, we have add player. And we have what? Remove player. Is replace, is remove one and add one? Is it? So I will go here and say public void, for example. I recommend when you write code, these things usually should return Boolean, true. And if the process is right. Replace what? Replace player. Replace player, usually, you want to replace one guy, you just need his number. Always when you remove, you just need the ID. Replace ID, but now player, a new player. But you replace him with a new player object. It's very simple. What to do, yalla? This dot what? Remove player, replace ID. So first, we will remove which player? The player that we want to remove. Then what? This dot what? Add player, which is a new player. Does that make sense, ya banat? So we replaced one with that ID, and we added a new one with a new ID. Let us do this now. I will comment this remove player. Tamam? I will create a new player. Player, a new player equals new player here, and we'll give him his ID is 99. His name is Ginobali. Okay, sorry, double quotes we need. Okay, his name is Kareem, and he scored like 700 whatever. We have this star. We need to, okay. Now we need to replace this guy with one of our players. Tamam. So I will say team, for example, dot what? Replace player. Let us say I have player number 11. Tamam. I will place him with who? With the new player. So here, after I add 3, I will add 3 in this loop, right? And then I need to, I print all the team members. Then I need to replace the player 11 with who? With the new player object. Tamam. So let's run this. But I need to remember to add a player with number 11. Okay. This is the player. Jassim. He scored only 1 point. Number 22, Hassan. He scored 8 points. And number 33, okay, Nasser, and he scored 10 points. See, now we have our players here. Sah. The total score is 19. Then we did what? We called the method called what here? In the tester, we called ReplacePlayer, sah? So, who was replaced? Number 11. What's his name? Jassim. And we replaced him with who? Okay, with a new player called Kareem, sah? And now look at the list now. Is Jassim there? No. What do you see in the list now? So how did we replace a player now in the code? We removed one player and added what? Actually, you can do it in another way. We have set. Set is easy also. Set is to change a current value, a current index. But if you want to use set here, you need to look for the index of the player you are removing. So we have already a method there. The methods, see why those simple methods can be used and reused, Type. I believe this is a good example. I have another example that is, we all know the example, and our example about composition is what? Course is a composition. Do you see one teacher there, one instructor? The course has an ID, Banat, right? Has a name, credit hours, and course code. But how many students in the course? Many students, right? But let us say is only one instructor. An instructor is an object, it's not just an instructor name. Does that make sense? So this is another example of composition. We will have a course class. Inside it, we will have instructor class. And now you all know we will have an array list of student class. Does that make sense? Okay, does it make sense? So if it makes sense, let's go to the code and see what we're going to happen. I prepared some example here, like core instructor. Any problem with instructor usually is very simple. Those classes, what's the instructor? Look at it. It's only nothing in it. Set and get and few attributes. What are the attributes? ID, name, college, and what? Office phone. Any question on this? I don't think. Straightforward. One constructor. All the remaining things are what? Set and get. Finally, you have what? ToString. And ToString, we are not doing anything. Then I have a student class. Similar things. What is the student now? ID, name, and what? GPA. Tamam. So if we just do validation from the GPA. I believe we did this together in one of our classes. Tamam. And we have to ask if the student is president list. President list will be for students more than or equal to 75. Tamam. And finally, we have toString. Does that make sense? Now we go to the course. I did not create anything in the course. But in the course, ya banat, what do we have? Course ID, course name, code, credit hours. So do we have, how many instructors we have? One. So private instructor. Okay, I can call him course what? Instructor. Does that make sense? But for students, what? Private, what? Array list of what? Student. And I will call them students. Tamam. I believe everything will be the same now in the two examples. We will go do things like what? Let me just format this. We will do constructor. Okay, the first constructor, I will only use the generate constructor using field without the instructor, without the students. Okay, you remember, girls, the students is an array list. Is it a good idea to always initialize it in the constructor to avoid null pointer exceptions, right? You can either do it here, but it's more professional to do it in one of the guaranteed to be called constructors. So here I can say students is equal to new array list of string of student. Tamam? A new array list of student, and now it's initialized. Now if you call add student or remove student, it's going to work. But if you call it with add remove without saying new, it's not going to work. طيب. Let us create, see ya banat, you have two options. Either send the instructor in the constructor, or provide set and get for without sending it. It's up to you. Here for example, I provide set and get for everything. Setter and getter, I select all. Select all and generate. So I can, after I create the course, I can set the instructor. Now I believe you all know what I want. I want public void, what? Add what? Student. صح? I will send you a student object, right? So how to add? I will say this, get what? What is the students dot what? Add. طبعا, of course, I can provide a validation like the previous example. If you have maximum number, okay. So now what is this? Get add student. Tamam. طيب. What if you want to know how many students in the class now? What to do? Public integer get student count. Does that make sense? How to know how many students in the class? Return what? This dot get students and what? Dot size. That's it. So now you know how many students in the class. So now I can add students. I know how many students in the class. Does that make sense, ya banat? Good. طيب. Set instructor, I will call it from the tester. Tamam? I will call it from the tester. I will create an instructor object. And can we remove a student? Yes, usually we remove by what? By ID. You know, I'll go to our team class. RemovePlayer, you remember? Okay, I'll copy it to our course. And here, I will create a method called what? Remove what, ya banat? Remove or drop. Is the name drop better? Drop what? Student. And what you're going to provide this method usually? Student what? ID. Now, for each student, okay, as in our this dot get what? Get students, right? It will return array list. If now, if what? If s get ID is equal to what? Student ID, this, sorry, here, yes, this dot get students remove s. Does that make sense? Okay, so we are just removing the student from the list. Can we add and remove student now? Right? Can we know how many students currently in the class. طيب. Look at the students يا بنات. I want to know the average GPA of students in the class. I want to know the average GPA, not the sum of GPA. In the previous example, we did an example to know the total score of all team members, right? Now we need to know the average GPA of all team members in the class. What do you think? We're going to calculate the total of GPAs, then divide it by the current number of students in the class. So I can go to a course now here, and I can say here, public, usually double, right? Double, get AVG of what? GPA. Does that make sense? So now I can say here double, okay, total GPA first, or I can say total, okay, which is equal to what? 0. You remember the for loop I did in the previous example, play a team, where I did some calculations of something? I will do exactly the same thing here. But now I'll do this for what? For the student and calculate their GPA. So for what? For student S in this dot get students, right? Array list. Now it's very simple. Total plus equal what ya banat? Okay, S dot get what? GPA. Does that make sense? So now, but the average is going to be what here? Double AVG is equal total divided by this dot get what? Get student count. Does that make sense? When you create a simple function like get student count, you will find many uses to it. If you don't have this get student count, you will everywhere write what? Dot size, you know, and that is not professional, right? Okay. So now I know how to get the GPA. Return what now? AVG. So now I know how many students in the class. I know what is the current GPA. I know what else. I can add and remove students, right? Is it time to create a new course in a tester, right? And honestly, let us see how. Okay, it's a good idea to go and steal something from the team class. What we're going to steal from the team class? I like this style of output here. We will make what? We will make a course. Tamam. Course what? Name. Then what? Code. Right? And ايش عنا? Credit hours, right? Credit hours, right? Is this available here in the... Yes, credit hours and course ID. Course ID is integer. So here I'll put the course ID. Okay, here I'll put the course ID here, for example, person D. You know what I mean? I'll put it here, then the course name, then credit hours. So now I can first line. So what do I want here? First one will be get course ID, right? Do you see the location of the ID, Abanat? Of the person D. Do you see it? The person D here. Okay? So the course ID will be inside. Then what's the second one? Course name. This is person S. This is for course name, right? So let's see this one. Get course name and seen an instructor, right? What else? Get course code, right? And this dot get course code, which is a string, and finally we have credit hours, which is an integer, right? Okay, this dot get credit hours. طيب. Now we have many students in the course. Can we just modify this? شوفوا يا بنات. This course has what? Students. And now I can get which method I can call? Get student count. You see this? You see this? Okay, now, طيب, for each what? Student S in what? In this get what students? The student class, dot get students. The student class, ya banat, has a toString. So it's very simple here. Just put the S. The student class, I don't need to explain. It's very simple, صح? Here, so just put S here. And let us, we need just one, we forgot one important guy, usually forgotten this guy. Who is he? Who is the one forgotten? Okay, here string format, I need to say what? Instructor, صح? Right? Instructor and instructor. I can say just print the instructor. Get, because it's one line, صح? Course, bueno. Is there course instructor? Yeah, here. The course instructor has what? Has a plus new line. The course instructor has what? Yeah, but not a toString also. So now, are we ready to create a tester for our course? Let us see this. A new, okay, class, test course, okay, with the main method. Now, okay, let us see. What do you need first to create? We need to create some students, right? What is a student instructor? It's very simple. Name, email, ID, name and GPA. Let's create some students here, Banat. Test course, okay? Here I would say student, okay, S1 equals a new student, tamam. So here ID 10, name is Ali Muhammad, okay? His GPA is 3.1. Does that make sense? Now we will copy paste this guy a lot, okay? Okay, semicolon. Now let's create many other students now. We need to get some, okay? We have 4 students so far, S2, S3. Of course, you can validate. If you try to add the same student twice, you can reject it. You get that? You can check if there is an ID of the same student in the array. This needs another method to check if contains the, okay, this guy is 20, and this guy is 30, and here we have 40, okay? Here we have Muna, Hassan, okay? And here GPA is 3.0, and this guy is Jamal Omar, okay? And his GPA is 2.1, okay? And number 20 is Jasim, okay? Jasim Abdullah, and his GPA is something like, okay, 2.7. Does that make sense? Now we have this guy. We have 4 students. Do we need to create an instructor? Very simple instructor. What do we have? Here is the instructor, ya banat. Okay, I can go here to create one instructor. Instructor equals I equals new instructor. Okay, let me just do this. The ID of the instructor, integer, is 1100. His name is Ziad Ali. Okay. And now next is what? College, ENG, tamam, comma, office phone, string office phone, 44034271. This is myself. Khalas, now we need to create, now we have the course ready, and let us see if we can get, we create a course object. Course C1 equals what? A new course. What do we need for the course? If you go at the course here, look at it. It's only simple things here to see a course ID, course name. You know why I copy paste these things, ya banat? To see the type. Sometimes I need the type, okay? Course ID is what's this? 251. Course name, object, oriented, programming, and what is next here? Course code CMBS 251. And how many credit hours you have for this course? 4. That's khalas. Now, did we create the course? Yes. Does it have an instructor, ya banat? Did we set it in the, is there a teacher? So I can say C1.set what? Set what? Course what? Okay, did we create one here? Is it ready? I, Ziad, right? طيب, now C1.add student S1. Are we adding now? C1.add what? Student S2. You can have a loop and you can get them in so many different ways. Add what? A student S3. And now C1.add student Okay, excellent. What's this? Course name 251, object-oriented programming, course code, credit hours, instructor. This code has 4 students. I think something wrong in the toString, right? That's fine. Is the student ID names صحيح? تمام. Let's go to the course here. Okay, let us see the toString now. تمام. toString. Okay. I believe I did it. Report string dot format. صح? Instructor. This dot get course instructor. طيب, why this one was not added? Do you have any idea يا بنات? Report plus equal. صح? تمام. Okay. plus equal. اقول لكم تمام بس هيك راح ولا نعمل شيء ولا فورمات. instructor plus وبس هيك شيء. No need to do all these things because it's already formatted. The instructor. Sorry. تمام. cancel. Save everything here وبس. تمام. طيب. And what did we forget? Do we need to add the average GPA in the course information? صح? So you know your students are going to be good or you are going to have a bad semester. Where we put this, for example, here AVG, average student GPA. Is it a good idea to put it here? Percent 2F. Is it percent 2F يا بنات? Is it? Okay, so where do you want me to put this here? After credit hours, right? Comma, this dot get what? Average when, huh? Did you see it? Here, first one. Tamam. Let's run this. Hopefully things work fine now. Test course, run. We know how to put, that's why we're going to get things quickly now. Okay. The instructor is Yad Ali. It's worked now. There is no need for even the word instructor, right? The course has, do you see the average GPA, ya banat, here? Okay. Does that make sense, right? Okay. Tamam. Can we remove a student? Do you go, can we test it now? C1 dot drop, صح؟ هو ايش مين بدنا؟ ناخذ رقم 20. Only the ID is needed. Then after that we output the course contents again. But I think I need just to modify one simple thing here. No need for the instructor word. It's coming from the class itself in the toString of the get instructor. Let us run the test course here again and see if we can get. Okay. See, first we have 4 students. The average GPA is 2.73. Tamam. And now we get what? How many students? How many students now we get? 3 students. I removed number 20, right? What's his name? Jasim, right? Okay, I removed him and now we have the, is that fine, Yabana? You can remove as students, get current count. Get how many students below 2? Is it a good warning to the teacher, right? How many students are in president list, for example? Yani you can do anything. Get other information about the instructor. طيب. Now, course has students, has instructor, right? What about semester? Tell me what's a semester now. Semester is an array list of courses, is it? Can you imagine it? Maybe you need to close your eyes here and visualize it, صح? Right? Course has a list of courses, and each semester, has a list of courses, and each semester, each course has an instructor and and plus its own attributes, has one instructor and an array list of students, صح? Of course, there are many other things, but we just try to simplify it. تمام. طيب, team has a players, صح? What about a tournament, بطولة أو دوري? Has an array list of teams, right? While each team has its own what? Tamam. Does that make sense? Any question here? So far, so good. Two examples, I believe they are good. So we will give one example on inheritance also. Okay? This example is, I believe it's straightforward. Okay, let's look at this example. You ride airport taxi, صح? Sometimes you need it. And sometimes, let us say, you ride a normal taxi, right? Okay. Both are taxis, yes or no? But the way they calculate the charge is totally different, huh? Usually the airport taxi will try to find every possible way to charge you more, right? And the rate is even different. You know what I mean by the rate is different? Yani per kilometer, the meter of the taxi airport, even here in Doha, right? And even the opening meter charge. You know the opening meter charge, for example, airport taxi in Europe, usually 5 euros. No, regular taxis, but airport taxis maybe 15. Yani they start 15, but for each kilometer you pay more than regular taxi. One more thing, airport taxis like to charge you by how many luggages you have, how many bags, tamam? So now we have a class for those taxi drivers, you know those taxi drivers, right? But we need to create another class for airport taxi. The taxi has a name, has whatever, has all these things. But the way they calculate the charge is different. Do we need to create a new class from scratch or extend the first one? Did you get this, ya banat? Extend the first one. Okay. We can create a third class like Uber. Uber has a third way of calculating Kareem, whatever. They have different ways of calculating the charge, right? For Uber, daytime is very important for them. Traffic, not distance. And for Uber, maybe time is more. If you order Karwa usually related to distance more than Uber, صح? تمام. طيب. So what we need to know? I will show you a class called here. I will show a class called Taxi Trip. You look at it. Tell me if it's difficult or not. Look at it, ya bana. Class Taxi Trip. Every time you go with a taxi trip, what do you have? What parameters? What? Private, double what? And passengers. Tamam. What do you have in the constructor? Distance and passengers. Tamam. Set and get distance, no questions. Get charge. Those taxi drivers are the old style taxi drivers. You know them, right? They charge you, for example, per kilometer, how much they charge you? But this is their what? Charge. Very simple, صح? You drive 10 kilometers, you pay what? 45 riyals. Tamam? Good. Yani I can here come and say what? For example, new class with a main. Okay. Test taxi. Tamam? Good. Yani here I can make taxi trip. Look at this. Taxi trip. TT1 equals new taxi trip, and they need two things from me. What? Distance, 20 kilometers, or let us make it simple to calculate, 2 passengers. Best. Very simple. Okay? Yeah, fine. Okay. This out. Let us see the output. This out. What? TT1. Tamam? Taxi trip 1. Okay? So trip details. Distance is 10 kilometers. Passenger is what? Charge is what? Is that good, ya bana? This is the old taxi drivers, the one you used to wave your hand, Okay? There was no apps before. Now there are, okay, طيب. Now this taxi trip class provides the basic functionality. We want to do a class that calculates the charges of airport van. And the airport van usually, they have things not only related to distance, for example. Even time of the day is important for them. And they have starting meter. Here in Qatar, for example, Karwa of airport, starting meter, I believe, it used to be 18. Yani they start counting up from 18. And they charge you more, and if it's at night. So now, we will make another class. But do we need to create it from scratch? Okay. The other classes still have distance and passengers. And I believe now, after 2 weeks of covering polymorphism, sometimes having the same parent class is very important to use polymorphic coding. So now, let us just see what we're going to do. We will go and try to write a class called taxi airport van trip. But let me just try to create it without showing you the code first. Airport, I just give it a name. Airport taxi van. Okay? Airport taxi van. Now, what's the major characteristics of airport taxi van? Is extends what? Yeah, it has what here? Huh? This has what? Private double starting meter. You know what I mean by starting meter? Yani how much they start counting from. Tamam. What else? They did passengers is available in the. They need to know how many luggage is available with you. صح? So can I say private integer luggage? Okay, count. Let us say this is the only thing, and they charge their meter is different, by the way. طيب. Now, in order to use everything in the extends which class now? Taxi trip. So now you inherit everything available where, ya banat? In the taxi. But you don't inherit the constructor. You must call one of the constructors of the superclass. Tamam. Yani the level of details here, yani I'm not going too deep, but because I did this before many times. So now let's see this now. Let me take this. So this is what you need now here. You are calling the super constructor. Don't worry about this one. I need to go here to generate constructor using fields. You already have two things for the super class, yes or no? Which is kilometers and number of passengers, right? And do you want these two things to be in the constructor? If you say yes, khalas, then no need for the second constructor. Do you agree with this? So now, okay. طيب. Get passengers or get distance are all available where? In the super class, right? But now I need to override one important method, which is about flus, right? Most important thing is all about money here, right? Which one? وينها? وين ايش اسمها? No. Get trip what? Oh, this one I need to do what now? This is taxi trip for those normal taxis, right? So I need to override it. Good. So here, airport taxi van. Okay. How to calculate this? First, let us make few setters and getters for the new features only. You know what I mean by new features? Okay. Here we have what? Luggage count. It's also a good idea to make sure what you are doing what here? Override. Here you are, whenever you look now at the construct or at the method, you will understand that this method what? Is overridden from a super class. Is that a good idea? تمام؟ يعني طيب. There are two ways now. Are we going to add to the calculations of the super class? Yes. But في عنا other things, right? تمام? Like here, for example, we will call which? يعني the taxi trip of the airport is the same as normal taxi plus 25 riyals opening meter and 5 riyals for each luggage. Is this good? So do we need to use the method in the super class? Yes or no? Yes, we need. The method in the super class will help us. But we need to add good. See now the method is simple, but if the method is very complicated, do you need to copy it again here? So you can just reuse it. This is a core concept. So here, what can I use here? I can say get taxi charge super. You know super now, I'll be calling it from who? The super class. Get trip charge of my super, tamam, plus what? This dot get what? Get starting parameter plus what? For example, let us say 5 riyals per what? Per bag, tamam? Plus this ايش قلنا؟ dot get luggage count. Sorry. حتى الجافا مش عاجبه get luggage count times 5. Does that make sense now? So the regular taxi will multiply each kilometer by 4.5. But this one will reuse that code plus adding what? The starting meter plus multiply each luggage by what? By high. تمام يا بنات. We'll go to the tester now. But what about to string? That the one in the toString here may not be, may not be the right thing. Yes. So I can use it, but I cannot use it everything in it. Yani I can use it, but here I can reuse it, not use it. Let me show you how. I will override it myself. I will see. Sometimes you can airport taxi van. Did I copy it here? Oh, here. Yani let us see. Get distance, passengers, tamam. Charge. Okay, what else I need to do this? Do I need to do other things? Yeah. I can say return super. Return super. In the super, which one we will not call super? Which one? Get what? Trip charge, صح? Get passengers, does it make difference? Actually, we don't have it here. It's already inherited from the super class, right? So now, we can either create our own, which is not a good idea, but maybe this example is not the best. Distance, passengers, charge, and what? طيب. Distance, passenger. What else I need to add? Tell me, Abanat. Luggage, and what? Starting meter. طيب. معناته أنا I can reuse everything. Return, super, toString, plus luggage count, okay, plus this dot equal to what? Okay, plus what? Starting meter, and what? Plus this dot equal what? Get what? Sorry, let us just do it here. This dot gets what? Starting meter. Right. I know you have a question, and maybe your question, get charge, will be called from the super class this way. I'm not sure. If you have a same class, same name in the subclass, it will not be called in the super class. Yani maybe if you here say, in the super class, the one we inherited, we are calling get trip charge. So it will get the trip charge for the regular taxi. No. No. Why? No. Do we have this method overridden in the subclass? So which one will be called? Now we will see. صح? So let's go and see what? Where is taxi tester? Test taxi. Now we will create another object, which is what? Airport van trip. Which one اللي created احنا? Okay, this one, right? Airport taxi van, right? So let's go here and see this one. Okay, ATV is equal to new ATV. What do we need to have now? Same thing, right? The trip is 20 kilometers, tamam? But I have 3 passengers, tamam? What else? The starting meter of Doha Airport, 25, right? And I have 3 luggage. Is it right? All of them are, tamam. This out, ATV now. Now, we did not write all the code from the super class. We only reuse the code whenever needed. And sometimes we change the way to calculate things, which is behavior. Tamam. Let us see what happens now. Okay. What about, your question was about the charge. What do you think? Where charge was calculated from? No, here a question was, I assumed إنه عندها question يعني to start a discussion with her. Okay, here, if you override a method in the subclass, Even when you call here from the super, do you see this one? In the super class tag strip, you call what? You call what? Get charge. If you have this method overridden in the subclass, which one will be called? The one in the subclass. If you are creating it from a subclass object, يعني here we are using it from which object? From van. If you do it from van and it's overridden in van, right? Tamam. So does that make sense now? Now we can create a third, a different subclass, like let's say ab taxi. Yes, or the second even. Maybe you need a limo from the airport. Usually reorder a limo, صح? Okay. Maybe a limo will do similar things plus 500 for a driver. You get my point? Plus the kilometer will be different. Does that make sense? Or you can have ab tax like Uber, Kareem, all these things, right? And those have different ways of calculating it. So you're going to override what? And Uber, for example, they have three different ones. What is it? Uber X, Uber Go, and Uber. They have three different categories. Each one has its own price. I think one of them for old cars, Hekshi. Some of them for medium quality cars and recent cars, and they can take 4 or 5 passengers. And the last one when you have more than 4 passengers. They have different way of calculating the charge. This is an excellent example. But they share a lot from a super class, but only the way they calculate charge and print the report maybe is different. So they don't create 3 different classes from scratch. They create one and they extend it in the subclass. Does that make sense?